But basically, you
Okay.
talked about doing Vipassana and then like the progression and now doing the Ramana Maharshi. And then the last question I just missed, I think it was like, what you,
Yeah, from a non-dual perspective, do you find that there is value in meditation and some of these practices?
I don't think that I really look at life like that anymore, like what's valuable and what's not. Like for
Hmm.
myself, I do, I do have routines in which I do, which I think keep the person like energetically balanced. So I have
Yeah.
like my routine, like I get up in the morning, I do some breathing exercises, I walk the dog. I don't wear shoes all the time when I walk the dog, so I think it's good to be barefooted on the ground.
Oh, well.
And I listen to like some particular musics that I find very expansive, and then I start my day after that. I'll have a shower and then I start my day. And I find all of that like really good for the body mind mechanism. But I don't look at any of it like an arrival for somebody to get somewhere. Like it's my routine and it's what I do, and I notice that it's nice for my body, and my body really likes that, just like eating particular foods it really enjoys, and it's attracted towards that.
Hmm.
Um, and and so that's what I go for, and I don't really have thoughts around what will bring me to enlightenment or what will bring someone else to enlightenment, um, because um, I don't really see somebody that can become enlightened, and um, and that dynamic, that structure in which you're trying to get to become enlightened, doesn't really exist as a whole. So I'm not opposed to practices, even though there's not really somebody there that's choosing to do it or not doing it. But
Hmm.
it's just that this idea that there is a solid entity that's inside the body that is
Hmm.
going to get to enlightenment through doing these practices is a fantasy. In every moment, there is karma of the body arising and disappearing. And that doesn't need to be negative. It can be negative or positive. You can be in negative karma or positive karma. And that karma is orchestrating the movements of the body. And for some people, they're identified with their karma, and some people they aren't. And when you're not identified with your karma, it changes your karma to an extent, but it doesn't stop karma. Like there has to be karma. I see karma as cause and effect in order for this apparent world to happen. But it doesn't, like it's not that karma that becomes enlightened. And it's that karma that people hold on to and believe is them that's going somewhere to get something. So it's a movement back from that. It's a movement away from seeing that, that who you are is this alive presence in which that karma is appearing in. So right now, there is a freedom already here. There is this experiencing which isn't limited. Your experiencing isn't limited inside your body. And you think that it's you that will learn that or unlearn that. But who is
Hmm.
this you? When I'm speaking to you now, I'm not actually speaking to that you, because that you doesn't exist as an entity that can hear something. It's the you, the illusory you, is thoughts and impulses that are arising. The listening is actually consciousness, which is beyond that. So that which is listening to me now, that which is hearing this, is consciousness, which isn't actually separate from the sounds of my voice. But in that, there plays a person, which then plays in front and then owns all these things, owns the consciousness, owns the karma, owns your thoughts, and then says, it's me that's listening to Lisa. And if I get into this subject more, if I do certain practices, then I can imagine myself free in a future time. But who is this you? I'm not opposed to practices. That's really not what I'm saying. If practices arise, that's beautiful. But who
Hmm.
is this person that's going to get enlightened? When the character is really dense and when the karma is really dense, then like my speculation, although this isn't always the case because you always get exceptions, is that there's so much focus on that suffering that it's like dense clouds in front of the sun. And so as the person like becomes looser, then it's more chance to see the sun through the clouds. But it's not about that person or that karma totally disappearing, because that karma can't disappear, otherwise the body would die.
Mm-hmm.
But if the person's got like really deluded thinking and really like abnormal thinking, then it becomes like very dense, that bundle of that person. But it can become thinner, it can become more balanced. Like if you imagine somebody that's really suffering, like normally when they're really suffering, they're very focused on themselves. So me, time, fear. And so there can be a loosening on that. Like that seems to happen in most cases, and that seems logical that needs to happen. Like if there's really dense focus on that suffering, it needs to loosen up a bit. But it's not that karmic energy which wakes up. It's beyond that. But that's not always the case of what I said about that really dense energy, because there's examples of teachers like Byron Katie and Eckhart Tolle who were suffering immensely, and then there was just some pop that happened.
Yeah.
So that's not always the case, but that seems to be what happens for a lot of people, is that they get into this subject and then they calm themselves down, because when someone's identified, they have lots of neurotic thinking. You know, they think lots of false thoughts.
Yeah.
Like, so their karma and their way of being gets into very complex thinking or complex dynamics with people. How does that make you feel?
Yeah, no, I agree with a large part of what you said.
And what happens in your body when I say it? Like, does your body respond in some way?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So it responds, but I'd say that I don't know, there is some kind of metamorphosis taking place within me at the moment. I can't explain it, but
Yeah.
as I said, there's things that, let's say, the storyteller goes completely offline at times.
Yeah, nice.
Lisa, for example, when I look at nature, for some reason when I go outside and I just look at the trees and look at the skies, for some reason the stillness and the harmony that's in nature, that's intrinsically in nature, it's reflected in me. You know, it reflects the harmony within me.
Yeah.
And then my storyteller goes offline. So
Yeah.
I'm just like, I've got a very intuitive strategy at the moment. So I'm just, anything that brings the thought machine to a halt, to a grinding halt.
Yeah.
And you know, listening to you, that there's been a few things that you said that have stopped me in my tracks.
Yeah.
Was the recent Ramana Maharshi, when I fixed my eyes onto his, and I didn't know about Ramana Maharshi until about 6 months ago, and I've been practicing the self-inquiry method, and that seems to, you know, certainly softening. You know, it seems to. I don't know. The action hero seems to go offline from time to time.
Nice. Yeah.
So
yeah, and
so
then there's
I'm just
just this moment and just the wonder of this moment, which is
absolutely,
beautiful.
which is beautiful. So there seems to be a little bit of a tug of war happening inside of me at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's the way for a lot of seekers, is that you expand, so so there is more of an identification with that which you are, and then when you expand, the person feels more balanced and feels more happy, and then you contract, and then the person feels very unhappy and very disconnected. So there's this opening and closing which happens, which affects the person.
Yeah.
And it kind of creates like a schizophrenic effect. Like one day you're happy with everything, and then the next day it's all not good. You got somewhere and then not got somewhere. And then it's also seeing that both of those are untrue. And all we ever have is this moment, and that is the truth. This moment is the truth, and this moment is mysterious and unknowable. The other thing that I would say to you, just for something to explore if it comes up, is like exploring also, you know, this from what you did in Vipassana, like the body sensations. Like when I said to you, how does that make you feel in the body? I asked you twice. I think I asked you twice. I think I asked you how it made you feel, first of all, and then I asked how it made you feel in the body. and both times you didn't answer me. So that's just a suggestion for you, not saying that you don't know what you're feeling in your body. It's just a suggestion of something that you can explore, is putting attention into the body and exploring what the body's saying. Because there's also this the mind and the body like are one and the same thing, and there can be identification with the mind and thoughts, and there can be identification with the emotions. And sometimes spiritual seekers are just going for the thoughts rather than the feelings as well. So they're beginning to see that the thoughts aren't true,
Yeah.
but they're not
Yeah.
really seeing that the feelings aren't true, and they're not really understanding the depth of feeling in the body. Because what's happened for most of people's lives is that they've always been listening to their mind. So the way my teacher described it to me was that he would say, like, the mind lies, but the body doesn't. So if like what used to happen to me, I suppose, is that I would want peace and harmony. So I would be being nice about something, but underneath I would be feeling anger in my body and frustration in my body. So I would be, but I wouldn't know that I felt anger and frustration necessarily. So I would be focused on wanting there to be niceness and peace in the conversation. And then I wouldn't know that there was this other story happening. And it's not that the anger actually and frustration is the truth. That's just a layer because you've been denying your anger and frustration, maybe. So then maybe there's something deeper than the anger and frustration. But it's like an indicator, like it's like a light for you to look at, like a beacon for you to look at. And you can go deeper, and then then you begin to get more into being an authentic human being. Because when you've been identified with the story of who you want to be, and then you've got the reality of who you are. Like, you've got that child in the playground that's really vulnerable, and you've got the reality of what you are in this life, and then you've got the idea of what your parents want, what society wants, what others want.
No, absolutely. I think you bang on the button with the body sensation, but I do tend to neglect the body. Only, but recently, I'll tell you, Lisa. So since I've adopted two like approaches to my body sensations, because I've got this strange heat sensation, and I've got anxiety in certain areas of the body, in certain tension spots.
Yeah.
The throat, the chest. Classically where anxiety is always situated. But I tend to like. There's one approach which is more analytical, so I'll just identify with the space of awareness, and then I'll just see that I am not this sensation. My true essence is not this sensation. And how if awareness is analogous to space, then how can space suffer? So I kind of tell myself, and that sometimes kind of takes off the edge of the sensation. But then also I go towards the sensation, so I'll meet the sensation, and I'll treat it like I'll give these the areas of my body actually childish names, like Mr. Throaty, Mr. Chesty. I'll invite them, and I'll say, you're something stupid like that, but you're welcome. Feel free, make yourself at home, so I don't get identified with it. So I don't resist, because I think resistance does certainly increase the intensity of the sensation you're experiencing. But no, that has helped me, and I feel that more and more I do it, the less and less it's having an impact on me.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, and another thing, a good thing to do with coming more in contact with the body is massage. Like, I was really fortunate at the time when I was doing this. I had a hot tub with like these massage seats, and I also had like a massage seat. You can get it really cheap in England for like £40, like this shiatsu massage seat off Amazon. I can't remember the name of the make. And I used to do a lot of massage, and I used to find that helped shift a lot of energy in my body and a lot of feelings in my body.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, yeah, no, I'll definitely inquire into that. I guess the question I did want to ask you, Lisa, like back to what I talked about non-duality, because so many speakers say so many different things, and obviously, they say that there's no longer no me. There's me has vanished or is dissolved, and if they are channeling like pure being, pure awareness, whatever you want to call it, that the words are coming from a deeper space. I'm wondering, shouldn't there be a consensus around kind of, you know, particularly the experience and I guess, you know, the practices and the methods to reach, or not to reach, let's say, to, you know, for the self to drop away. I mean, that's where there's confusion. That's where a confusion lies for me. Shouldn't there be a consensus, particularly at that level, where, you know, if all these separate me's have dissolved?
That would be
Do you
really nice. Yeah, that would be really nice for logic and reason.
does that mean that beingness is in conflict with itself? If it's all been channeled from all these different beings, that pure awareness is actually in conflict with itself because they're all saying very different things.
No, totally not. It means that logic and reason cannot even begin to touch the mystery of this life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know.
So it's like so to me, every speaker. So to me, the way that life works is that pure beingness is animating this. So aliveness or presence is animating this. So it's animating my body, is animating your body, and then it comes through characters. So if you've got a character that's come from particular teachers, then you'll notice that they tend to have that flavor. They don't suddenly start speaking about something really differently or speaking in Japanese. And so there's that influence. It tends to be what they came from and the flavor in which they speak. Yeah. Like if I'd been brought up in Christianity and had this awakening, I'm sure it would be very different the way in which I speak. But I came through learning about this from Nonduality and particular teachers and particular influences. And then over the 10 years, I've began to find more of a like unique Lisa way of expressing this. So, but it's not actually the character that's speaking. The character is something that comes and goes. What's speaking now is pure beingness, but it comes through a character. And this character right now is called Lisa, and she speaks English, and she was brought up in the United Kingdom, and she loves tea, but is not allowed tea, like English tea, because it hurts her tummy if she drinks too much tea. Oh, I love it, a cup of tea. And she, like, I have particular ways of being, and I have particular ways of expressing this. So this character is here, and it's colouring this expression. And that's the same for every teacher. And my qualm sometimes with non-duality, but I also think it's absolutely perfect, is that people get the impression that teachers no longer have a character because of the different ways in which people speak. So they will say there is no self. So I tend not to say there is no self anymore, because it doesn't really feel like that. It feels like there is a character that comes and goes, but it also feels like this spaciousness is speaking. But I tend not to say no self, but I don't disagree with that teaching. I really like that teaching as well. Yeah. But they still speak through a character. So their character is not suddenly completely transforming into a different character. They speak in their particular way of being. And that, I think, like, is sometimes very confusing to the person, because the person begins to get into their imagination that everyone that's speaking non-duality is like this blank void that has no character, has no emotions, has no karma, has no quirks. And to me, that's completely untrue.
So yeah, no, I completely get that. So I completely understand. And I would expect there to be differences in style, delivery, character, personality, and all those things. Absolutely. It's just when they differ on like methods and practices, like there'll be some who will say that self-inquiry, no, it's just a waste of time. It's completely futile. Yeah. And then you'll get others that say, no, that's their method. And if it's all been channeled from this pure being, then that's where I struggle.
Yeah, but it's so in them there is this realization of pure beingness. It's not even in them. There is just this movement to pure beingness. So that is like an energetic shift, but it's still, the body is speaking with its particular information to date. So it's not like when you get awakening that the character gets a download of information how to speak about this. Like, to me, when I had my awakening, I just thought none of the teachings even begin to remotely touch this. Like, it was so mind-blowing. And then inside of myself, there was a little bit of an internal battle about what teachings were right. The thing that felt the most true to me was there was an energetic expansion that happened. So that's what, like, if I were to put it into words, it was like an energetic expansion, and then like the word emptiness and fullness felt like they had truth in it, but it really didn't come with a download of information. It's like I don't know how somebody gets to this. Like it doesn't. I can talk about my particular story and I can talk about what resonates here, but I don't know that. I know that there is this. I can remember Lisa's path and I can talk about other teachers I've heard and things that make sense. But in the end, like if we come to the perspective of presence, of non-duality, non-duality is silent without any words. It's just here. And everything else is kind of speculation. And teachers are kind of trying to point to that which is beyond words, but they can never really get it with words because it's totally silent and present and here. So it is this great contradiction that's happening, like with all the different speakers. And there's like, I've been watching, or I watched a few weeks ago, this argument, not argument, it was like debate between two different teachers, and it's so interesting to listen like how they don't agree and also be at absolute peace with that. Like to know that that's absolutely possible, that there can be different perspectives on it, but yet a deep radical knowing of non-duality, of no self. It could also be that the teachers have different experiences. Like it could also be that people are talking about different things. From my perspective, that's all okay. Like there's a absolute commitment and like conviction in what's being spoken about beyond the person here. So that's okay if everyone's like, if I find out that lots of other teachers have a different experience of non-duality to what I do, but I'm also okay with all of us having the same experience and all speaking about it in different ways.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that was a nice story, as you said, two non-duality teachers coming together, and they were still completely at peace, and and at the same time they had differing views. I guess it would be nice if people were willing to upgrade their views as well. Be open to new information, and that's a sign of humility to say that you can be persuaded if new information and better argument an argument is presented. But,
no,
no,
totally. That is beautiful. And I do see that on the human level, like its capacity is to infinitely evolve. So we could infinitely evolve the way in which we speak about this, and we can infinitely evolve our karma. Everybody. So on the human level, which I think is kind of love and reflects the love of this, like there's never a rival. There's never an end. And there's also never a beginning as well, but it's like infinite. I remember when I was in India, maybe you've heard me say this before, I say it often, me and my partner were walking and we met a sadhu, and the sadhu, I'd just never thought of that before. The sadhu said, knowledge is infinite. And I just thought, that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's the same with the way in which we can speak about this, and the realizations on the human level are infinite. That which is experiencing is unquestionable to me. Like that is beyond language. Non-duality is beyond all of it, and it just is here. But everything that's appearing within the dream has got the propensity to expand. It's very humbling.
No, absolutely. Yeah, and I got your earlier point as well when you said about it's not about attaining anything. I understand we are the destination we are looking for, but there's a veil of ignorance, or there's a that's I completely agree with that. There's nothing to find. I guess ultimately, Lisa, would you say that it does come down to, I mean, in the non-dual they call it resonance, but I would say that's almost synonymous with grace, but it does come down to grace, that when the separate self falls away, that it's down to God's will if you believe in God, but everything is happening in accordance with God's will. and
Yeah,
whatever shall
totally. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like it's all God's will.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, it's been lovely.
Yeah, thank you for calling. When you called, it was really nice because you've got an on picture, like the on pulsed. You know how like maybe you have to look at that in Skype next. The picture pulsed.
I love how you pronounce om picture than om.
Yeah. So it was like black background with and then this red on pulsing. It was very nice.
Yeah, cool. My arms are becoming longer and longer each time. I'm like, don't know, for some reason, like my inhalations are becoming longer and longer now, so I can go for a good 40, 50 seconds. I haven't even been practicing any breath
Yeah.
work, but for some reason
Yeah.
my
Om.
yeah, we'll have to have an om contest.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Oh, thank you for calling back. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it's lovely to speak to you. I'll call
Yeah.
again.
Nice. Thank you.
Oh, take care. Have a lovely evening.
And you. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, that was nice. Sorry, I'm going too close to the camera, aren't I? Making it all blurry. Big head. Oh, I can't see it. It's like I remember when I was younger, I went to a talk of the Dalai Lama, and it was so cute because he had a baseball cap on because of all the lights on the stage. It was a massive like stadium, and we were right at the back. We had to have binoculars to see him, and I think actually there was also a TV. I don't think we had binoculars. It was quite a long time ago. And he had a baseball cap on to shade himself from the lights. It was so sweet. Like he's all in his robe and then a red baseball cap.